Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Happy Hour podcast. My name is Ola, and it's been a while since we thought we were recording, and I've got two amazing guests on the show with me today. Could you please introduce yourself?
After you, Pauline.
I muted myself because I thought Belinda would go first. Hi, I'm Pauline Nakirya, and I am an actor and a filmmaker. And I also co host another podcast called Let's React.
Amazing. Thanks for being here, Belinda.
Hi, thanks for having me. I am friend of Pauline. We actually met each other acting. So yeah, I'm an actor as well. Well, technically Pauline was drumming, but still. I do lots of different things. I don't like to label or box myself in, but I think the label that I would choose would be being an artist. But incidentally, I'm also a scientist. So, you know, ultimately, I just have lots of interest, like to play, like to follow the things that interest me and keep me alive and passionate.
Nice, nice. It's really, really great to have you both here. So both of you are actors. Can you just briefly tell me about your journey, how that's going. Could be a recent experience and something about what's going on so far. Pauline. Yeah, Pauline, you start every time now. Pauline, you're the first to go.
Oh, man. Where do I start? I think I'll just go back a few years only. But no, in terms of my journey, yeah, that's basically what it's like. Well, what you're asking, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or it could
um
be your journey this year, so it's not too deep. Just
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Ooh, I hate going first. But yeah, but in terms of my journey or at the moment or what I'm doing now, it's basically trying to understand filmmaking and know more about it. So that I can be able to create my own stuff, um and make films and not worry about, oh no, you're not the right cast for this, because I'm casting it myself. But yeah, in essence, that's what kind of where I'm in terms of my journey. That's where I am at the moment. I still do acting as well, but I'm trying to be more on the creative side, so I'm able to be more confident in creating my own stuff. Yeah.
okay. Awesome, Pauline. Nice.
Yeah.
Belinda.
Nice, yeah. So my journey in acting, have you got 5 hours? So, okay, yeah. So my journey of acting interestingly began when I was very young. It began when I was 7 years old. I wanted to be a doctor from the age of 3 and then an actor from the age of 7. So that's actually what I'm doing, the two of them together. And at some point, I was keeping acting predominantly as a hobby, but then I thought, okay, let me go and do an acting master's so that I can go professional. So I went to Arts Ed and I did the 1 year there to convert. I had my medical degree already, and that gave me the birthing into the acting industry because I got an agent, I got on Spotlight, and I started meeting people and working with different people. And I've been through a few agents now. My current one is fantastic. I signed with them just before the pandemic, and I'm getting loads of auditions. I feel like they understand me and my casting and where I want to go. This week, for example, I have had 8 auditions, which is a lot, especially when you have a full-time medical job as well. But I'm just very thankful. And like Pauline, I like to do other things as well. We've made a short film together, in fact. I like to do some writing. I'm writing a play. I write poetry. Yeah, I'm just very interested in people and connecting with people and our stories, and acting's a fantastic way in which I can do that and truly connect.
Amazing. Sounds really, really good, Pauline and Belinda. It's great to have you both here with your vast experience in the industry and, just the journey, the future that this journey holds. And it's exciting to have you both. And
Oh, thank you. Really excited to
Thank
be
you.
here.
thank you for
Yeah,
making the time.
definitely.
Because I like this the whole goal of this podcast really is to network with actors, writers, producers, directors, and then have a network of people that if you're doing something, you just there's that network here, and you can just reach and yeah. So I'm happy to have you both join the network. So yeah, amazing.
Woo, woo,
So,
woo, woo, woo.
so obviously today the show really is the Real Happy Hour podcast, and we review films and TV shows. We have the Happy Hour connoting. We have drinks today. I've got a gin and tonic. Let me put that on the screen here. Everyone's got a drink with them. Just connote the happiness of
Coffee.
life.
Just hydrating with water. Wink.
And, yeah, so today we're going to be talking about a specific movie which I stumbled on. I went to the cinema randomly with a friend of mine, and actually, we didn't go to the cinema. We went to a mall and we didn't really know what to do. We said, let's go watch a movie. And a week before, I I had the podcast and I asked for them to sort of list movies to watch or something like that. And then they just mentioned Past Lives. And so
Mm.
that was always in my head. I knew nothing about the movie. I didn't Google it. I knew nothing. And so we go to the cinema and we didn't know what to watch. But that was the only one that available at that time, Past Lives. And started to watch it and my mind was blown. So yeah,
Ooh.
yeah, it's like wow. Because I don't really go to watch foreign movies. I'm not really. I mean, I'll watch a series, for like a foreign language movie, not really. Considering Nollywood, a lot of Nollywood typically is foreign language, really. Not so you would think I would watch more considering I'm from Nigeria and all that, but it was just
Yes,
exciting.
it is.
Yeah. So I came out of the cinema like overwhelmed, amazed,
Wow.
storytelling, the cinematography, and it was, so. What do you think about Past Lives?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. The cinematography was incredible. And all I knew going into it was that it was a South Korean film, or like there was that element to it. I do watch world cinema and I was very open to it. But the reason why I went to see this was because so many of my actor friends who I see and work with regularly were recommending it. And we like to work and perform in a similar way. So I figure we have similar tastes. We like truthful acting that really connects with you and that isn't like a sort of stereotypical trite story. And yeah, it did not disappoint. It felt really profound to me, and I felt like it resonated as well, having those moments where you think to yourself, like with my best friend, for example, I sometimes think that, or I like to think that we meet each other in every life. So seeing this story, actually makes me emotional. But it does, like imagine if it's true and if we've all just come from this exploding cloud of dust, or whether God's at the core or whatever, what energy is at the core, if we've all come from one and we're just working our way back to each other, like it's it's magical. And yeah, and I just love the fact that it didn't have a sort of Hollywood
It was a
ending.
very real ending. It was unexpected.
Yes.
Like, and
Yes.
yeah. So Pauline, what did you think before I start going into it?
Oh yeah, sorry. I was I was fidgeting and I didn't want to, you know, uh but no, I actually, the way I got to know about it was because um having to, like, wanting to make films, I've been watching a few directors and writers whose work or whose stuff is not trending per se, but whose stuff is coming up, and then seeing how they make a film, how they write it, how they came to make it in spite of the story or what the essence of the story is. And I've always loved world cinema, especially um Asian cinema, because it's interesting how they tell stories. It's quite different to how the rest of the world does, and realizing that a lot of their stories seem to be infiltrated into Hollywood, which are then turned into Hollywood film remakes and stuff like that. So Past Lives for me, I guess it was more about um hearing this idea that drama, the idea of drama in cinema is kind of dying out because people want to focus on action movies due to the whole Marvel thing. So I only kind of knew of the making of it. So it was until we were doing Let's React, and Belinda and our guest that we had on, Lisa Ghazi, were talking about it, that I was like, oh, maybe I should actually fully watch it. I was going to watch it, but I was going to wait for it to watch it at home, because I I have kids, and sometimes it's hard for me to go and do stuff. And so I actually then decided to just go to online on Amazon or on streaming service, and then just yeah, I watched it. That's how I watched it. And yeah, and I actually really loved it. And I get, the whole story of like the thing of past lives as well, the storyline in itself. There was this writer called Andy Wire. He wrote this short story called The Egg, and it's about our lives and how we live so many lives, and every time we're like reincarnated and reincarnated, but we don't remember these past lives. That's why we have moments of deja vu, but it's just that moments that we've lived, or maybe we were this kind of person. And so I've always loved that fascination of what if, yeah, we have met in life and we're meant to meet someone or meant to be with someone, but in this life we're not, you know. So yeah, that's how I kind of got into the story, and I thought, oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie. We both referenced the idea of sort of reincarnation and past lives and all of that. It's really interesting how even that really is the sort of underlying theme of sort of our connection to each other, extending the current timeline that we're living. And I really
Mm.
do believe, like, it's funny how, like, I feel like art, life imitates art, and we're really going to this place where a lot of the content we're seeing is about, timelines, past lives,
Yeah.
our connection. There has to be a lot of truth to it, and that's one of the beauty in art is that it almost in a way manifests reality, and or it just probably awakens the collective to the reality of life. And I just
Hmm.
think that's one of the things that this movie sort of touched on in terms of our connection with the current life we're living and past lives or future. And
There's a word in Korean, inyon. It means providence or fate.
Do you believe in that?
That's just something Koreans say to seduce someone.
yeah, so amazing movie. So let me just quickly do a quick synopsis of Past Lives.
Okay.
So Past Lives is a 2023 American romantic drama film written and directed by Celine Song in her feature directorial debut. Wow, that is amazing. The film follows the relationship between two childhood friends over the course of 24 years as they contemplate their relationship when they grow apart to have different lives. Yeah. Um, yeah, so let's talk about the characters now. So starring Greta Lee and T. Okay, I'm gonna mess up that, so I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna even butch his name. But what do you think about the characters? That is the two leads and their journey in the movie.
Pauline, you're looking at the pronunciation, yeah? Good, great. I think it's important because we would want them
Yeah,
to do that for us, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
What?
So
Not what Pauline Naki?
Coming Greta Lee, Teo
Nakirya, I've had
Yoo,
that.
and John Magaro.
T-
And
yeah, John
Magaro.
Magaro, Teo
Magaro.
Yoo, and Greta Lee are the lead actors.
Thank you very much
Uh,
for that.
no worries.
So, what do we think about the characters?
Go for it, Pauline. I'm looking for the spellings too whilst you
Yeah,
whilst
yeah,
you talk.
sure. Um, yeah, so I thought like in terms of when you think of I guess for me the first thing I went to was just thinking about the how moving from one place to another, the transition of how the characters change like who they are in a way to where they're going. So I think it's like the family of well Nora or Nas Na what was her name? But you know, Nora basically, her
Greta Lee.
family,
Yeah, the
yeah,
female lead. I think
yeah,
her
the
name is probably
lead.
Greta Lee. That's probably her name.
Yeah, so Greta Lee, she plays Nora, but the
Yeah.
Korean name that she has is basically she changes if the family changes their Korean names to more English sounding names. And it just kind of like reminded me of I know quite a few like friends from parts of East Asia who have done that and just it's just the sounding of it, what sounds right, what's more comfortable for someone, and then not having to explain, oh, yeah, this is my name and this is how I spell it. And then that idea of changing your identity in a way, because that's the start of changing kind of your identity. So that kind of, I felt that kind of like revolved a character like a carousel. So just kind of changed it from this person as a child and that transitioned into this young woman who's moved abroad and like you would say westernized in a way. Um, yeah, but I loved her character. I really did. And I thought that the actor was really good. I thought as a in terms of writing it, you know, the softness of her, the feeling of that still wanting to connect to you where you were from but still also remembering to try and stay connected to your present was really nice and I really enjoyed that so much about Nora.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's such a familiar story, isn't it? The changing of names to fit the society you're in. In her case, in the story, she seemed really sort of excited for it. But there was that really beautiful moment where he asked her what he should call her, or like if he could use her former name. And
Yeah.
it just made me sort of think about what impact your name has on your feeling of who you are and your identity. If you go by another name, do you lose part of yourself if you don't use your original name? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I find it quite interesting. But in terms of their characters, I loved it because Nora was very feisty, go-getter, always wanting the best, you know, Nobel Prize, yeah. And then whatever prize it was, Pulitzer Prize, it's like constantly evolving, always wanting wanting greatness for herself. And I can totally identify with that myself. You know, I've had previously had times had like a BAFTA or an Oscar on my phone as the saver, just whoosh. Because why not?
Manifest.
Why not? Exactly. Let's aim
Manifest.
high. So I felt like I could identify a lot with Nora. With Jung, less so, but he was super romantic and dedicated, and they obviously had a connection. And I love that he had the courage to book a flight and try, because if you don't try, you'll never know. And at least having been there and seen that, okay, yes, she chooses her current partner and seems to be happy. That's a big
No, I
question
feel like
ish.
the way it ends, it sort of makes us question: do we think it's over? Because I kind of it was a bit too unrealistic. Because if I was in that situation, I would I wouldn't stay in this marriage. I think I would be like, that is the love of your life. You need to go be with the love of your life. I cannot be in the way of this. This is bigger than me. This is bigger than us.
See, I'm on the fence about that only because her husband was so nice. He was so kind and so tolerant. And yes, okay, so it wasn't this magical secret connection that crosses the world, but it was something real, and it was someone who was going to be loving and supportive to her. And I think she does love him. Uh, so, and do you know what? Like, I think the relationship that you don't have can often be romanticized. So,
Mm,
yes, there's a spark, there's magic. This is someone that you've known since childhood who you've just got this feeling with, like there's a belonging and there's a sense of home that comes with them as well. However, if you've not had an adult relationship with that person there in the flesh, you don't really know. You know, maybe actually the fact that intellectually it looked like they were on different levels, that might have gotten in the way of their relationship. At least her partner intellectually gets her. So that's going to stimulate her sparking mind. And he's going to
exactly.
understand when she's out there trying to do anything to get the career, to get to the level that she wants. Whereas her Jung may not. Jung might be like, what are you doing? Like, what about
Yeah,
me?
John
So,
seems to be
yeah.
more traditional man, and he probably would at some point expect her to maybe not go so hard at work, maybe just relax at home, and he probably
Yes.
feels like he's attained so much already, and they'll be like, "Oh, you've done all of this, like you're such a go-getter, you can relax now." But Nora seems like she wants more, and her
Yes.
partner, is someone who would support that.
Yes,
So as much as
exactly.
you can see the connection between her and Joe, um, my partner is who she needs in terms of just the progression of her life. So
Yeah.
yeah, with that. And it's funny how you also mentioned shedding of identity because Nora had to shed parts of her in on the journey to becoming who she wants to be. Whereas the guy, Joe, I can't butcher his name, I apologize. He sort of remained in that sense of a traditional South Korean man. He did the army. He's got the white collar job. That whole archetype. That is him. So it just shows the contrast in their lives. Like
Yes.
she's. But does that also is there also a question for both of you? Is the shedding of her identity into becoming because she's an immigrant? Is that a good thing? Do we need to shed parts of our identity in order to sort of attain what we desire in the world or in the Western world?
Um, Sorry, I had to mute myself because my kids just decided to run in or shout. But no, I don't think that. I think for me, what I got from that was that you don't really have to. It's, I guess, learning to embrace the two parts of yourself and realizing that that's who you were once, and that has kind of shaped your ideas of life, your understanding of everything that's happening in your life. And so um being able to keep that and still be able to live the present life that you are living kind of makes you the same person. And so having that essence of not really losing yourself but keeping parts of you, because it's okay to want that. I think that's what I got from the film, that it's okay to want to have these different things, whether it's from your past and the present, and then having someone like, her partner who was very, like he even aired what we were all thinking, saying what exactly we're all thinking about, what is she going to do, what is her choice. And I think then at the end, it's her realizing that, because she didn't know either how she really felt until that moment, until it all happened. Like, she must have imagined what it could have been like, but it's still okay to be upset about it. It's still okay to acknowledge
Mm.
that, than trying to act like it doesn't really matter, because then that's also diminishing their relationship with when they were little. and that chemistry that they still had with each other. So I think it's just her learning to accept that and being okay with that, or not okay with it, but being physically and openly upset with it, with that feeling, which I thought was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an interesting question that you ask, though. Do we need to shed our, as immigrants or as the generation, the offspring of immigrants, do we need to shed a part of ourselves to thrive in the society in which we live? I think that is a very interesting question, and I see a lot of people doing that, and I find it sad. I think it's tricky. For me, I hope that every element of me actually just enhances the stories that I can tell, enhances my way of showing up in the world. But having said that, there are games that we play. We do play the system in order to get to certain positions where we're more able to live our truth. I'll just give you a very quick example of me doing that a little bit. It was when I was doing interviews for medical school. I had an amazing female consultant who was a surgeon, a breast surgeon, and she said to me, "You should put some for your interviews, put some sort of makeup on and try and look sort of older, and also to talk a bit posher." Because my accent's London. I don't know what my accent is now, by the way. I think my accent was more London, but now it's been warped. I've got no idea. And she said that, and it was coming from a good place. She wasn't saying to me, "Your accent's rubbish," but she, with her knowledge and knowing what it took for her as a woman to get to be a surgeon, especially like, because she was, I don't know, maybe about 60, and so she would have been going into the medical world when sexism was even more rife and there were far fewer women. So she battled a lot. So when she was telling me it wasn't to say your identity isn't enough or isn't right. It was more to say, this is how you get those people on board. This is how you get yourself into that position that you want to get into. So I do remember being more mindful of how I was talking and pronunciating my words for the interviews. But I haven't really thought about it subsequently. But I do know when sometimes I'll put on a little bit of, I'll speak the lingo of wherever it is that I need to be. So like in a medical world, I might, just the way I talk will be in a way in which I know people will be receptive to and listen to and will carry some authority. But ultimately, I do feel like I'm true to myself. And as I say, having now been to drama school and and been to UCL, which has a lot of public school people, I'm a bit of a chameleon anyway, so I don't know what my accent is. It will be a mixture of everything I've encountered. And is it different to childhood me? Yes, definitely. But do I feel like I'm putting something on? No. And I do feel like I'm able to express what's in my heart with the voice that I have. And I do like my voice. So, yeah.
I think this is interesting because both of you have a podcast called Let's React, and you sort of talk about your journey, like in this atmosphere, culture of just finding that just your journey towards your career and all that, and document your experiences and that. So it's interesting because the conversation now is about having to shed parts of us to sort of attain what we want in terms of a career, and I think every industry has that. So if you're sort of um an ethnic minority, you sort of have that element of having to sort of perform or become what is expected of you in order to just climb up the ladder and all of that. So amazing that
Yeah.
this film focuses on that.
Yeah. It's like even actually when you say that, when 'cause, yeah, I'm one. Yeah, I am an. I migrated or immigrated, migrated. What's the difference? But I wasn't running away from anything. It's just more like I moved to this country when I was a teenager, and yeah, I have to say, yeah, when I was doing my A levels, I I had an accent. I was aware that I had an accent, and so when someone would be saying something and I'd say it, if they'll be, oh, you, where are you from? Da, 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 da. But then I said, when I went to I did drama at uni, and then I said doing more acting work and more stuff like that, interacting with more people in the theater or in, in making stuff, I started change my I think my accent started changing. I don't know when it happened, but I remember speaking to a friend of mine who just went, oh, you sound different. I was like, oh, what do you mean I sound different? Oh, you sound more English. And I was like, oh, really? And I then didn't realize until I thought I was just talking normally, but I never realized when I switched. Uh, but
Hmm.
then I just started doing it more often in a way that I said becoming more aware of it and realizing when I was doing it. Because when I've been speaking to my mom, I sound so Ugandan after a short while, and then I'm back to myself again. So this is more or less now my standard accent, but yeah, it's true. But I guess it's not realizing that you're doing it. I think it's different if you're doing it on purpose to compare to if you're unsure or unaware that you're doing it. 'Cause there's also those parts of it, those aspects of it, where sometimes you're forced to maybe adapt or have to adapt to the situation, like Belinda was saying, being advised to maybe change, do this and that, and then sometimes not being able to even being so used to being in that environment that you don't realize that you're changing, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like even in terms of like changing and and moving, I feel like our generation, we saw the use of technology, the introduction of technology, social media, and virtual connection. We are the part of the group that sort of experienced it the most. I feel like between 25 to 30, 37, 38. I feel like that age group, we really experienced the change in technology in that sense. And this movie also sort of shows how technology was a way of
Yeah.
connecting people between the
Yes.
two
Yeah.
childhood friends. And as an immigrant, someone who grew up in Nigeria, I'm talking about myself. I feel like that story is something a lot of us can relate to because when I moved out, that was the way we were connecting with each other, virtual conversations. And it's beautiful that this movie touched on that because not a lot of movies touch on that connection, childhood connections that you had.
Mm.
Like I literally had a similar experience to what they had, but not as intense. Like just like a childhood,
Wow.
yeah, like a someone from my high school, from first year of high school to the last year. Then we go our separate ways, and then social media we connect by virtual. And I'm sure this is a lot of us do this, and so I just was excited that this movie touched on that because it's very real.
Yeah, big up
Oh.
MSN and Yahoo
Yeah,
Yeah.
Messenger. Oh my gosh.
It's the
Yeah.
sound of Skype, the do, 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 do,
yeah,
do,
exactly.
do, do. When it came
Yeah.
on, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
no
No, because
worries.
I know what it means. Like I had that similar thing where you were, because I came in as a teenager, and there was, yeah, people you connected with. There was those connections, and then, again, like your parents make that decision for you to stay here. And I was very upset about it, actually. But at the same time, it's like how to make new connections, new friends, new everything. um and then reconnecting with those people in your past. um and yeah, I mean, I don't know if mine was as intense as that, but it
Yeah.
almost did. It almost
Yeah.
was. But then realizing that that was in the past, and then just
Wow.
accepting that, because it's like one of you has to sacrifice something, and it's like you're forcing the other person to sacrifice something that they it's not fair to have someone else
Mm.
sacrifice their life and stuff. And yeah, trying to make it work, but at the same time you're like, you don't know if it's going to work, and then you just become that thing where you're just like, what do you want? What do you really plan on doing? Is it realistic? Because you're still also in that bubble as well. And when you're stuck in that bubble, you forget about everything else. And then reality slowly starts hitting in when people say, asking, oh, because it's the whole thing of the like the long distance relationship or whatever. Um, but yeah, but having to realize that you just have to let go. And I think that's the hardest bit, letting go, but knowing that you're not doing it to be selfish, because I think it wasn't selfish, because it was like, you need to live your life, because it's not going to change in a way. You're still young, you're still figuring things out yourself. Um, and if it's meant to be, it'll be, but if it isn't,
So
it
you
isn't.
talking about romance rather than friendship
A bit of
in
both. It
that
was a
sense?
mix. Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
mix of that, exactly like how the film is. It's that mix of where you are friends, you grew up together, you went to school together, like everything, like you went to church, your parents knew each other, you talked all the time, and then realizing, oh, okay, I'm staying here. Oh, by the way, yeah, cool. Um, and thinking that it could work or hoping it could work, but then it doesn't. So that friendship becomes more than that, but then realizing it's not going to work. So,
Yeah, that's interesting
but
because,
mm,
I grew up in London, but I can still identify with it, with what you're saying, I think, because I don't know, a bit of me sometimes feels like some friends are meant to only really be there for a part of your life. For some reason, sometimes you grow apart, and it's not even that you've particularly changed necessarily. It's just that I don't know what it is, but you have these intense periods where that person might have been your best friend for many years, and suddenly here you are and you never see them anymore. Or
yeah,
you might get a meeting in, like you said, on Facebook or whatever, and you're back in touch and you're like, okay, let's meet, and you meet. But that intense period is over and something's gone, and maybe it's because it could never live up to that intensity of the period that it's almost sadder to stay in touch. And I don't know what it is, but I find it very interesting.
yeah, yeah. It's like you have to choose. It's like also when it's a weird one. You can't really base what it is or what happens or what changes about your dynamic in that relationship, and then going, um, did we grow
Yeah.
apart? What's different? What? Yeah. Um, I guess that's what Nora's trying to figure out, I suppose, because when her husband asks her, "Would you leave me?" Oh, you know what I mean? It's that thing of what would she do? But then at the same time, it's that thing of she doesn't know either. Like she generally says, I don't know. And so it's just letting it work out and figure it out. Like she thinks it's just come for a holiday, but then she's like, you were right, actually, it's here for me. Um, and just going, oh, okay, so that's happened, right? I don't know. I just okay, let's just do you want to meet?
Yeah.
It's just yeah.
Do you know what I
Uh,
admired about Nora? It
mm,
was how honest she was with her partner.
It was.
That is not easy to say. The thing
mhm,
she was saying to him, that direct, upfront honesty. I mean, it's aspirational.
mm,
I would hope that I could be that honest, but it's like risky stuff. Maybe it's because she knew that he's such a good listener and so understanding and supportive that he wasn't going to flip out and like leave when she's not even
mm.
sure what it is that she's thinking. But I think so
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
I
people
was
would not
actually,
have said,
yeah, I was really scared for him because I thought her honesty was coming from a place of discard. Like I thought she was just being brutally like honest in a way that this is gonna be bad for you. So
yeah.
so I was, yeah, she was very yeah, she's very, very different kind of honesty and openness in a relationship that I don't think I know
Yeah.
Pauline about. Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought that was part of her character in a way, because she was very open and honest. Like, even just thinking about her relationship with her family, her mom, like when they were talking, she just bluntly say whatever she was thinking. So I think that was part of her character. And I think it could be also why he loved her, and that's why they could openly have these conversations, because um their relationship was all about that. If it thing is just being honest. um yeah. Oh.
And then in terms of in terms of the storytelling and how it would jump through times, like it started from like 24 years. It started at 24 years in present, and then it went back 24 years in the past, and then 12 years, and then the present. Like that storytelling in itself was confusing for me at first. Like I was a bit,
Yeah.
what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? And the way the movie even sets
Oh.
up the story, because I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember the first 5 minutes where there's someone sort of looking in. It's like a voyeuristic style of sort of looking into this people when they're having a conversation about what do you think is going on with their lives. And I was really thinking like, oh, okay, like this Asian couple are together and he's probably like their guide or something. And that's how
Mm,
they set up the movie
that
for us
was
to think that.
beautiful.
And so all through the movie, I was rooting for them, like, oh yeah, they definitely, just because of the first 5 minutes, the conversation.
The first 5 minutes were a good setup, weren't they? Yeah, because it's like that Hollywood thing. That's what's gonna happen, but who are they? And then that look she gives when she looks straight down, and then it starts. It's just,
Yeah, that was beautiful.
yeah,
Dude,
And
yeah.
I've done that before as well, where you're guessing what someone's story is. Yeah,
exactly.
it is.
Yeah,
It's quite
yeah.
fun. I've done, yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I did get a feel for the story, but like you say, the chemistry and the magic is immediately apparent as soon as you see the two of them in the bar and the sort of bored, despondent looking hubby. Like, yeah, but I didn't know what the relationships were, or I thought I did anyway.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
It's interesting how like her husband learns the language, didn't he? But
mm,
I don't think she was aware. But even if she was or wasn't aware, like they were in the bar and they almost they just created like a world. They were just so engrossed with each other, having this conversation, and and he was just there. And so I was
mhm,
just like, wow, this is intense. This is a crazy
mm.
movie of love and
Acceptance.
love and
Love lost.
acceptance. And I also like
Yeah.
how even in the movie, when the two men are seated with each other, they go, this could also be our engine. I think that's the word,
Mm,
where they could
mm.
also have a past life, and this is
Yeah.
their experience of this current life, and it's just really beautiful. It's really
Yeah.
beautiful movie.
And I like that shot started off with facing them, and then it just ended with the backs. It's like that transition. For me, my brain just went, oh, like the past, and then it's like switched around. Like they just suddenly she's gone, and we're just saying like we're in their past, and then this is now like they're the future in a way when they're talking. I don't know, but that was me just reading so much into the technicality of the film. But
Nice.
I
Yeah.
thought that shot was quite beautiful
And
Mm.
also
in that
something
sense.
something I caught because I saw it twice. The second time around, there was some part in the movie in the very first 30 minutes where the way it was shot and it was meant to echo that the childhood male friend Joe, he's somewhat stuck in the past,
Mm,
whereas
Yeah.
Nora is focused on the future. And
Yeah.
you know, at the end of the day, even though he goes through relationships, he's still hung up on Nora. Like
mm,
Nora is
mm.
Totally.
pedestal, and yeah, it just follows
Yeah.
all.
And going off what
Yeah.
you just said, it's all exemplified by that shot where they're at the corner. It was beautiful, right? And she's walking up the stairs and he's going this way, but he's looking sort of like looking towards her, hope, kind of like bye, but she's storming off ahead. So just like what you
Mm-hmm.
said, he's sort of like stuck there, kind of wanting, willing, and like visually, she's kind of like edging away upwards, advancing
Mm-hmm.
upwards, which is
Mm-hmm.
exactly what she's doing in life, really, on her
Yeah,
way up.
totally. Yeah.
Maybe.
I love the technical bits.
Oh,
It's always like, I see what you did there.
I also think her environment really did inspire her passion because her parents were also in the arts. So there's that, the effects of the environment that sort of affected her and propelled or inspired her to be such a focused dreamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any observations that you'd like to throw
yeah. I
in your
think
life?
like in terms of what just going off what you just said, her parents being artists gave her that. I feel like it gave her that openness. I don't quite remember what his parents did for a living, but that moment when they're having breakfast, you can just see it's not as relaxed. It's not. It's quite intense. His dad is just focused on whatever he's doing, whereas with Nora's family, when they would sit down, and mom's like, "Oh, so who's the boy like?" It was more like that was very open or open with each other or honest with each other. I think that's what she was. That's how she. It felt like she was raised, and so the way her family was, and then going into this new life and being open to that new life as well. Whereas for him, asking her, why did you leave? Like, why did you, like, she was a little kid when she left. She just, she just left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that bit of him, like you said, he's stuck in the past, but at the same time, like his kind of family, because remember his mom saying to Nora's mom, like, but you're doing well, your life is good here. Why do you want to leave this life? You know, so he's grown up. I don't think he grew up with that same openness, that same vibes of the family being able to allowed, or not even allowed, but probably just being able to express yourself and seeing their
Expression.
families. Yeah, the parents is quite different in the way they raise their kids. So
Yeah. I think
um
they're more traditional, while Nora's are more progressive. And
Hmm.
so
mm,
it's just that
yeah,
contrast. Funny how
yeah, you
that
can.
contrast, yeah, they were still able to form a friendship with that because she never pretended right from being a
No.
child, and he never pretended either. But yeah, they were
Mm,
still able to find some sort of friendship in their difference.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
yeah,
Um, Interestingly, my observation was something that might sound like it's going against what you're saying, but I don't think it does. I just think it's different. What I noticed about him, and I was impressed by it, was that he was able to cry in front of his friends. Do you remember, like in the bar when they're getting drunk and he's sobbing away? And they weren't teasing him or being nasty to him. They're more like, there, old chap kind of thing, like,
Yeah,
but
his
it's
friends
something.
there was another friend that broke up, and he was crying, and they were consoling him. So
Yeah.
the openness of being, so he probably found safety in friendships.
Yes.
mm,
So
And in male friendships, we have a mental health epidemic, and we're often talking about how men in society are often persuaded to not show their emotions or influenced to not show their emotions. So to see men showing them and supporting each other was really
yeah,
nice because that's what we need.
yeah.
That
And actually, now that you say that, actually, sorry, Belinda,
No, not at all.
he had his friends. There was not much about her friends, but she was
Hmm.
talking to her mum a lot. Like, she was on the phone to her mum, and then she went away on a retreat, a writer's retreat. Whereas for him, he had his friends who were just talking. There was banter, drinking, they're going out, they're doing this. The film showed him going out, showed him doing things, you know, being this, being that, whereas her focus was just like, I just
yeah,
realized that, yeah, we didn't get to see any of her friends or anything like that. Um,
that's true.
Yeah,
Probably was a
yeah.
workaholic, just working
mm,
specific hours, and he probably had a bit more freedom to build a social life. Because we didn't see her go on dates. She just met this guy at the writers
Yeah, yeah.
and formed a relationship with him and stuck with him. Yeah,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah, no, definitely, definitely, yeah. So then, that kind of feels like a balance as well in a way, because it feels like even though um pardon me, even though his life kind of seemed more restricted, more controlled, more this, more traditional, he was like he had kind of some form of happiness in a way. And whereas hers, she was very open, very this, very that, but we didn't see that. Maybe it was the writer's decision, but you didn't see that kind of part of Nora away from him. The Nora we saw was just when she was always with him, when she was with her husband and talking to her mum. Like these, so she had people like with specific relationships, whereas for him he was like, yeah, okay, yeah, my friend, yeah, yeah, yeah. And and he meets someone else as his, just because he's going out, so he goes out to a restaurant and he meets someone else. Whereas for her, because she's so focused on her work, I'd say, she goes on this writers retreat. That's where she met her husband. Obviously, they married because, not just wanting to give it all away, but they married for certain reasons. And then obviously they just, yeah, they stayed together. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I just realized that. That's quite interesting, actually. That.
Yeah, it is interesting. Uh,
Mm.
I think though that often when if we're comparing types of lifestyle, in your image of your 9 to 5er, which is kind of like what he was, you do have you go to work, then you maybe have a drink with your mates, and then you go home, watch the football or the telly, and like you have this sort of routine, common lifestyle. And then with her, in academia or in some sort of passion, even I don't know, even acting, really often the people you spend time around are the people who are excited about the same things that you are with your writers retreat. So I don't think one's better than the other, either.
Because it's not like her career, she wasn't massively successful, um, and he wasn't. I think he mentioned something about knowing that he's always going to be of a certain income bracket, and so
Yeah.
it wasn't really money that they were sort of
Yes.
going after. I think they were
No.
really
Mm.
just to feel some sort of happiness in their life, find happiness. And Nora seems to
Mm.
have found it in her husband and her career that she's building. And I think he was just a reminder of, could this be a possibility? Could there be more? Or I think as a whole, there's just there's a bigger picture with Nora being with her husband and in America and chasing her career, and perhaps it's just the unknown with him, and the devil you know is better than what you don't know. And I guess he just.
Yeah. Yeah.
But in
Yeah.
my mind, maybe we can final thoughts is we could sort of create another engine. Like, well, what would be if you could create an alternative engine? What would it be? I'll go first. In my mind, Nora leaves her husband, goes with him, and she goes back to South Korea or Seoul, and they start a family because it's probably the type of guy that's like, all right, I want kids now. Let's start, and then she lives happily ever after. And her husband is like a cool friend. They become writing partners, and and they make movies
In my
together.
mind, in my mind, she has a bold moment where she's like, okay, yes, I want to be with you, Jung, but only if you move here and if you do something with your life, you pursue some sort of dream. However, he doesn't go on to fulfill this dream, and she realizes that actually his lack of activity, his inertness, is bringing her down. And she starts to feel quite alone mentally within the relationship and regrets breaking up with her husband and ends up alone. They all end up alone. There you go. Nice cheery ending.
Oh wow. How do I top that? Um, I don't know. For me, I feel like in my mind, I think she was miserable for a few months about it. But I think because of that conversation she had with him and the breath letting go and then just letting go, but being able to accept that. So then they just stayed friends. Mine is like, oh, Pauline, get over it. But they
The
stayed
problem was
friends, and yeah, but they stayed friends because that even though they didn't probably go out for let's hang out, let's go on holiday together, let's do this, and the open invite to go to Seoul, to go to whatever. I think that was um that moment at the end was just that was the breakup, like the proper now official breakup. I think she took it took her months to get over it, and her husband wrote that story he wanted to write because he was the big bad, even though he wasn't. But like that kind of that was the breakup, and that was the the break, the you
yeah,
know so that for
yeah,
me, that's yeah.
yeah.
So are you saying, sorry, that Jung and Nora remain friends?
They remain friends, but they
And
don't really don't speak all the time. Like, when we're talking about friendships that just grow apart or just something happens
mhm,
and it filters. I think that moment at the end was the breakup of that
mhm.
relation, and realizing it's never gonna happen.
And
And
she's happy with her husband?
I think she is,
Okay.
because I think she is. And like that crying, being able to openly cry in front of him, realizing how hard that was, how much that for me that means so much, because it shows how much he loves her, her husband loved her. And her being able to open up that, realizing that she loved this person. It's not like she denied it, like, but she that kind of love, she didn't know what kind of love it was. And so that moment when it happened, just realizing that that's happened, that's gone. Maybe it would have been beautiful, I don't know, but I need to accept that. And I think she does. I think that's how I'd like to think she accepts that, cries for like months on end, eating chocolates, putting on weight, and
It's wow. It's just wow being in a relationship, knowing your wife is literally mourning her love.
she stayed.
And I think
um,
one last thing I observed, where I was
mm,
hoping she would get back with Joe, was they didn't have any kids, and so I thought it's probably why they don't have any kids.
uh,
So I kept holding on to hope. But anyway, that's my last thought. Thank you both so much for making the time to talk about past lives, and please talk about your podcast. Let's react, and I'd love to be on your podcast at some point. And
Yay.
yeah, so please share your social media, where we can find you, your podcast, and what you've got coming up.
yeah. I'll do the admin bits. Belinda will do the socials. No. Yeah. So yeah, we Belinda, co-host Let's React podcast, and it is, as you hear it, basically we're on Instagram. We've fairly recently joined TikTok, and but yeah, we're mainly on Instagram though, and we have uh like, you can reach out to us. We just talk about, we're on start again. Yeah. So yes, Let's React podcast, which myself and Belinda co-host, is basically on all major platforms. Whichever one you listen to, you should be able to find us on there. And yeah, we are uh yeah, go on, Belinda,
Yeah.
help me.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to tell you a little bit about it, Let's React podcast. It's re-at because it's funny, because we're so funny.
Yeah,
It
totally.
is a podcast in which we explore the journeys of, initially it was Black artists within the entertainment industry, but we've expanded it actually to global majority artists, and anyone who is unrepresented. So yeah, whether that be because of their sexuality or because of their the way their minds work or their bodies work, if there are any impediments to being embraced by the industry. We want to know their stories. So we are talking to lots of different people, whether it's writers, actors, makeup artists, producers, just anyone. And we just want to hear a little bit about the work they're doing, about their journey, about the struggles and the wins that they've had, and get inspired by each other. And it's just one big network. And like
Yeah.
Pauline says, we are on all major platforms. Don't forget the little hyphen.
Yeah.
You know what? You both remind me of this group called hashtag Booked. Do you know of them?
Hashtag
They're just Booked. Have you heard of them?
booked.
They're two American ladies who
Oh.
are actors. They came to the UK to study, and then they
Hmm.
went back, and they document their journeys towards their acting gigs, and so they make spoofs of their experiences, and and if you guys watch them, you could be like, oh wow, this is like an alternate version of us in a way. So
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, I haven't listened. I'll have a look.
yeah, I know they don't do podcasts; they just document their journey and they
Ah,
spoof
okay.
their auditions, they spoof the experiences.
Right. Got you. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah,
really
they
funny.
look.
Like, some of the things they do. They look nothing
Yeah.
like YouTube, but just the vibe.
Amazing.
Oh, we got good vibes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we like to think that we
Okay.
do, because that's one of the things that I guess it's trying to figure out where we fit in as well, in this podcast world, in the world that we're in. And I suppose, like, when we're doing like the it's usually like people who are in brackets, that you put in a bracket, you're putting in a box, a certain way, any creatives and stuff like that. So, like, listening to their journeys, listening to other people's journeys, it's always nice to see. People like to know this the journey, don't they? People like to know the story, of where you started, where you're going, and then laugh and cry with you, we hope, when you get to the bit that you start to be like, oh, okay, this is cool. Um, but yeah, I lost my train of thought. So there you go. Let's react.
Yes, let's react. Thank you very much, both of you, for taking the time. And this is the Real Happy Hour podcast. We're available on all streaming sites, and they're available to watch on YouTube. Please like and subscribe, and we will be back again. But wait, one thing I want to do. Sorry. um, both of you, can you like ask a question for like the next guest? Because
Oh,
yeah, just ask a question that you would like
yeah.
the next
Okay.
guest to answer. It could be anything.
Can we have one each?
Yes.
Okay, great. Gonna
Who wants to
meditate
go
on
first?
that. It's gonna meditate on that
Anything.
1 second.
It could be anything in my life. It could
Yeah.
be what do you think about the reason for existing?
Yeah,
Like
sure. A nice easy question like that.
That's
Yeah, sure.
deep. um, I will go with um, what was the last thing you thought about that made you go, hmm?
anything. And that could be anything, so I love that.
And my question would be, if you could go back and visit yourself aged 5, what would you say to yourself?
Mm, nice. Love it. Love it. Thank you both so much.
Thank
It's been
you.
great.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Woo, 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 woo,
Bam,
woo.
bam, bam.
It was happy. You delivered.
It
It was a
was.
very happy hour.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much for having us. It's been great having you on Real Happy Hour podcast. Honestly, it's been fab. Thank you so much.